Welcome to the final part of our Independence Day series. When we last left off, two kings had fallen and the Maldives was firmly under British protection. But protection came with a price and questions began to rise. That rhymed? Okay, jokes aside. So what did sovereignty really mean back then? Why were we giving away land, silencing our voices, and standing still in a world that was moving fast? So today, we're going to talk about the spark, the why, the moment we began to want more than a crown under someone else's shadow. The year was 1857. The sea was calm, but trouble rode on the sails that approached the Maldives. With quiet formality, the Bora merchants arrived, given official permission to trade by Muskul Bandarang himself. At first glance, they appeared to be just another group of foreign traders, but beneath the surface, their grip tightened fast. For over a century, their quote-unquote predatory trade tactics would embed themselves into the Maldivian economy like barnacles to a hull, draining more than what they gave, tightening a silent chokehold on local trade. After the letter that welcomed the British Empire, Khidhumaiykuraa died. Then Nuruddin Bandaran died. The nation drifted, still under the British hands. And then, almost 60 years later, the pen was picked up once more. Another agreement, or should I say the first agreement, considering the previous one was just a letter. On April 24, 1948, a new document was inked. Another British tightening the noose, this time dressed in diplomacy. Mohamed Amin Didi, the grandchild of Ibrahim Dushmana Kaleyfaanu and Ibrahim Famladeri Kaleyfaanu, stood for the Maldives. Walter Hankinson stood for Britain. With that agreement, the tribute payments were abolished. But in that ink, they carved out a deeper stake in the island chain. The British people saw an opportunity, especially after losing their beloved Ceylon. The Maldives, we were the perfect backup plan for them. In 1954, Ibrahim Famladeri Kaleyfaanu, the son of Ghiyasuddin Radung, became the Prime Minister of the Maldives. World War II had already left the British people with strategic breadcrumbs scattered across the Maldives, Addu and Kela. So in December 1956, Ibrahim Famladeri Kaleyfaanu, the new Prime Minister, signed off 110 acres of Maldivian land in Gang and Khidhumaiykuraa for 100 years. A century of occupation was decided with barely a murmur from the cabinet. Whispers were growing into voices. Education Minister Ibrahim Shihab took flight to Ceylon and boldly told the journalists that we don't want a British base in our country. Another political storm was brewing. At the center of it was a rising figure, the 29-year-old Ibrahim Nasir. By 1957, the Boras had ruled the economy for 100 years. Many of Mali's elite had their debts to Boras deep. Their stomachs were full from their gifts, but not Ibrahim Nasir. He was one of the few who had returned the meals they sent. Ibrahim Nasir was not for sale. On March 29, 1957, while Prime Minister Ibrahim Kaleyfaanu was conveniently away in Ceylon, MP Ali Ahmed introduced a bill to expel foreign traders without licenses. It was a masterstroke drafted and driven behind the scenes by Ibrahim Nasir himself. He demanded that even licensed traders who failed to meet the quotas be sent packing. The Parliament passed it, 34 votes out of 37. The Prime Minister returned in fury, arms loaded with promises made to the Bora leaders in Ceylon. He argued for diplomacy, he argued about reputation, and he threatened that if things didn't go his way, he would resign. And just like that, that fear replaced resolve. The Parliament reversed the bill. On the 11th of December 1957, Ibrahim Kaleyfaanu resigned under growing pressure. The next day, Ibrahim Nasir took the role of Prime Minister. His agenda was very clear. He wanted independence. On the 2nd of March 1958, Ibrahim Nasir brought the gun lease agreement to the Parliament, and even with the British High Commissioner Alexander Morley present, the agreement was rejected. On the 1st of January 1959, tensions exploded in Addu. Custom duties and new maritime policies stirred unrest. That year, Abdullah Afif raised the flag of rebellion in Addu, Wadu and Formula, declaring the United Swadweep Islands. Behind it all, the British smiled politely while playing puppeteer. In 1960, the Maldives and Britain renegotiated. The lease of Gung was cut from 100 years to 30 years, but real freedom to make foreign alliances was still denied. The chains remained, just a little looser. Still, the Boras remained. The Rahunnaai port was just a fragile strip of metal sheets back then. Frustrated Maldivian youth, eager to disrupt British operation, began sabotaging it by removing sheets and planting trees and coconut palm on the landing strip. This made it nearly impossible for British flights to land. The British rep Sir Arthington Dhivehi, who had moved from Mooliyage to Doonidu, became so isolated that his meals had to be delivered by a pulley. On May 1, 1962, Nasir declared that the Boras could only export what they produced themselves. The order was signed by Ali Ahmed, the same man who introduced the first bill. Then came August 1, 1962. Another order. All trade permissions revoked. The Boras were banned from Maldivian commerce. After 105 years, they were finally out. And yet, Mali remained restless because while the Boras were gone, the British still lingered. The people wanted more than gestures. They wanted freedom that didn't come with condition. They were tired. They were tired of policies made across oceans and decisions passed down like hand-me-down chains. A week of fruitless meetings at Mooliyage over the United Swadweep Islands issue had left the people of Mali simmering with rage. The endless talks led nowhere, and the resentment towards British interference reached a boiling point. From every ward of Mali, women rose up. Their plan was to sail to Doonidu and confront the British ambassador Sir Arthington Dhivehi, but Maldivian soldiers had to block the exits. That day, the women had to return home, but they didn't give up. The next day, on the 16th of November 1962, everything changed. Over 4,000 women took to the roads of Mali, shouting with fury. It was the first women-led protest in Maldivian history. They stormed down to the eastern beach, marching from end to end of the island, chanting, "Send the British away, take down the British flag from Doonidu, expel them from Addu." Send Arthington Davey back. Meanwhile, Sir Arthington Davey and Prime Minister's Special Envoy Arthur Snelling were in Dunedin. The women didn't wait for permission. They swam, climbed into boats and rowed without a single man straight towards Dunedin. These little boats launched from Himveru, Mafanu, 29 boats in total carrying 1,500 women. Panicked, the ambassador and envoy retreated into hiding, British authority covering behind locked doors. Maldivian soldiers had to chase the women in 2 fishing vessels, blocking them from setting foot on Dunedin. The women circled the island and they stayed there until sunset. When they returned to Male, they kept on chanting. Male only quieted down after 7 p.m. that night. News of this uprising made international headlines. So the Maldivian government was forced to apologize to the British, but the empire wasn't done flexing. A British Royal Navy ship anchored near Dunedin. A 4-propeller aircraft screamed through the skies above Male at low altitude, shattering the peace. Armed soldiers began patrolling Dunedin. It was an insult. The ship had entered Maldivian waters without permission, without the customary salute to the Sultan. The Prime Minister Ibrahim Nasser demanded answers from both Arthington Davey and the British High Commissioner in Ceylon, calling the incident exactly what it was, an act of intimidation against a peaceful women's protest. But the British doubled down. As one ship left, 7 more came. A total of 8 British ships would anchor off Dunedin in a show of colonial muscle. But no ship, no soldier, no foreign flag could erase what had already been done. The Maldivian women had spoken, loudly, proudly, and publicly, and the world had listened. On the 12th of August 1964, negotiations began between Maldivian Ambassador Abdusattar Musa Didi and the British High Commissioner. The British people knew that the resistance in Maldives was immovable. Finally, on the 26th of July 1965, in the British High Commission in Colombo, Prime Minister Ibrahim Nasser signed the historic agreement. Sir Michael Walker signed for Britain. After 73 years under the shadow of the empire, the Maldives stood tall, independent. This wasn't just an end of a treaty. This was the breaking of chains that clinked through generations. This was the moment when the Maldivian seas whispered, "You are yours again." The Maldives was finally free. And with that, we wrap our special 3-part series created to mark the 60th Independence Day of the Maldives. I hope you enjoyed the journey with me, learned with me, and felt the weight of the past as it shaped the Maldives we know today. Tales Beyond the Sunny Side continues because history doesn't end, it just turns the page. More stories await. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.